Even in Week 9 of the 2023 college football season, there's no clear frontrunner for the Heisman Trophy. It's completely up for grabs, and there's a lot of guys that can seemingly come out of nowhere and win it with a strong finish to the season. In 2022, Caleb Williams had already ran away with the award with over 20 touchdowns and only one interception before the month of October had even ended. In 2021, by this point in the season, we all knew Bryce Young was going to win, and same with 2019 Joe Burrow. More often than not, the Heisman Trophy winner is obvious, with a large margin between the first place winner and the runners-up, but there are strange years. In 2009, there were 6 undefeated teams and no clear frontrunner for the Heisman. Mark Ingram ended up edging Toby Gerhart by only 28 points to win, and this was the closest victory in the history of the Heisman Trophy. Could something like this happen again in 2023? Here is what the preseason betting odds for the Heisman Trophy looked like. Even though repeating as a Heisman winner is nearly impossible and has only been done once, Caleb Williams was still the favorite, which just speaks on the magnitude of his game. We see some players on this list that are clearly not in the conversation anymore, such as Cade Klubnik, mostly due to Clemson having a disappointing year with 3 losses. Carson Beck, who's had a good season but hasn't quite had remarkable numbers. You could also put Drake May in that same boat. And then Quinn Ewers, which I have not heard his name being mentioned for the Heisman since about week 2. It's fun to look back at these predictions with hindsight because you can't hate on the bettors because before the season, it's just so hard to predict college football. So where do we stand in Week 9? Well, most of the season we thought it was Caleb Williams' award to lose, and he did end up losing it and falling out of contention with a horrible road performance against Notre Dame with 3 interceptions, following it up with a mighty home loss against Utah where he did not show up, 0 touchdowns. The fact that USC is out of the playoff contention hurts too. It's very hard to win a Heisman when your team is not in the college football playoff conversation. That's just the rule of thumb. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. A player who I thought was going to run away with it was Michael Penix Jr. After a stellar and clutch win against rival Oregon, I thought there was no chance that anyone could catch him. He even had his Heisman moment freestyling on the bench to his teammates before leading a game-winning drive, straight ice. Then he comes out in the next home game against a 1-win Arizona State team and turns the ball over 3 times in the first half. Now, this was an ASU team that only created 1 takeaway the entire season before playing UW. In Penix's 2 out of last 3 games, he's had a 0 touchdown outing. Oregon was the only exception. He's not completely out of it because he still leads the FBS in passing yards and is top 5 in many statistical categories. 1 bad game doesn't kill you, but 2 might just be enough to lose your credibility in a tight race, and that is exactly what's happening with Michael Penix. Now, this is where we move on to a guy that was not in the preseason top 10 odds for the Heisman Trophy. He was slept on most of the year and is now making a great case for himself. As of Week 9, J.J. McCarthy has the best odds to win the Heisman Trophy, sitting at plus 230. He's been quietly putting up a monster year. Now, how could I say the FBS leader in QBR with 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions is having a quiet year? This is because Michigan has yet to play a game on the massive national stage. They've been favored to beat every team by multiple scores, and they have done that with flying colors. That being said, he has the chance to do that in upcoming games against top 10 Penn State and rival Ohio State. Michigan is also going to be favored in both of those games, which is why the public is shifting towards McCarthy as their Heisman winner. They believe if he wins at least 1 or 2 of those games, gets to the Big Ten championship without putting up a bad performance, he'll be in the driver's seat to win the trophy in New York. Now let's get into the wild cards. This is where it gets a little fun and crazy, starting with Jaden Daniels. I mentioned earlier how it's hard to be in the conversation with 2 losses. However, it also depends on when you took those losses and the direction that you're trending. After watching LSU lose in the first game of the season, a lot of people wrote off Jaden Daniels as a Heisman contender, especially after they lost again in late September versus Ole Miss. But LSU is trending upwards with an undefeated month of October. Jaden Daniels leads the entire country in total offense and passing touchdowns. He's a menace to defenses with both his arm and his legs. Now, LSU has a pivotal matchup with Alabama on November the 4th, and let's say LSU wins that game with a great performance from Daniels, he will surely be climbing the list for Heisman frontrunners. Don't you go sleeping on Bodacious, a.k.a. Bo Nix, who has turned his entire career around since transferring to Oregon. He's the perfect leader for Dan Lanning's offense, gets the ball out on time to his weapons, and has put up spectacular numbers for the 1-loss Ducks this season. 19 touchdowns and only 1 interception is crazy. He's a seasoned veteran that every coach would love to have on their team, and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to continue to put up efficient numbers and keep Oregon competitive in every single game that they play. And then we have Dylan Gabriel, whose name has been surging recently, especially after the big win in the Red River rivalry, where he stepped up and made many big plays, 19 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the season. He's not shown that much love as far as the betting odds go, but Sooner fans would tell you otherwise. As far as the long shots of the Heisman Trophy, we have Jordan Travis, who's putting up a great year for the undefeated Noles. The only issue is that his pass attempts are down compared to most of the other contenders, meaning less yards, touchdowns, and all of that good stuff. Not to say that he's not an amazing talent. And finally, we have the only wide receiver in the mix, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is just incredible to watch. He's put up over 100 receiving yards in 6 out of 8 games this season. His numbers almost look like that of a running back, and he makes it look so easy at the same time. He's going to be crucial in Ohio State's trek to the Big Ten championship and beyond. There's a possibility that in the rivalry game between Michigan and Ohio State, it could have big implications in the Heisman race between Harrison and McCarthy. However, the reason why Harrison is a long shot is because of the amount of loaded QBs in this year's race. Maybe in another year, he could have been a serious contender. College football in 2023 has so many outstanding players, and it's going to be a tight race to the finish to see who wins the Heisman Trophy. It's going to be a treat for us fans to watch. Who do you guys think will win the Heisman? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for reaching the end of the video. If you are new, make sure to subscribe to join the best community in college football. You don't want to miss out on videos like this. It's been Saturday Shenanigans, your home for unfiltered college football content, and I'll see you guys soon.